finally an aesthetically pleasant recap video. I'm not just in my car. I am in my car, but I am parked at Fox Park in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. You see the beach right behind me with some swings. It's nice to have the lake back there. Wanted to film this outside, but it would have been purely just wind noise, and I wasn't prepared for that kind of thing. So it would have sounded like has anyone seen Birdemic? Would have sounded like that scene where they filmed on the beach and they're going like, that's how the voices sound when they're muffled by the wind. I'm driving away. I'm going back home because the tour is over. Played my last show of it in Marquette, Michigan. I'm going to tell you all about it. Yesterday, I woke up exhausted because I worked. I woke up at about 8 a.m., which for the record, that is my 5 a.m. That's basically my 4:30 a.m. because I work at night. Real hellish situation. And yeah, hilariously, I had to work that evening and briefly pause the tour before the last day. I knew that was going to be true going in, so I wasn't too miffed about the whole situation. But I get in the car and I take the gorgeous drive up north, and I'm feeling it. I'm feeling incredibly good. I listened to an audiobook of Tropic of Cancer, really getting that beat poetry vibe coming in. And watched, or when I say watched, I mean I listened to a really compelling video from the YouTuber Big Joel talking about Kanye West going on the fucking Daily Wire and talking to Candace Owens. Just a real interesting illumination of the kind of psychotic death cult of conservatives. Really, really odd. And the kind of Jewish conspiracies that they are cooking up. But there was one song I just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And that's the song, if you're watching this, I recommend this to anyone. The song is called I'm You by Hallelujah the Hills. Recommended to me by my friend Dan. And it really hit me yesterday. Especially with all the solidarity I've been feeling from people on the internet, just friends of mine, just signaling togetherness. And during this tour, honestly, like seeing it everywhere and being really moved by it. Listen to I'm You by Hallelujah the Hills. Anyway, then I get to Marquette, and I can already tell it's just fucking beautiful. It's profound. I mean, the lake is right there, and I'm fond of any lakeside town, whether it's really, beautiful and put together or a decrepit town. Just something about being by the water really does it for me. I stopped in Snowbound Books and got a book about seahorses and a book by Junichiro Tanizaki, who is a really interesting Japanese author for the middle of the 20th century. Really explores the depths of Eros. Really compelling guy. Then I went to Emporium Records, and let me tell you real quick, shouts out to John and my new friend Troy Graham that I met there, who I'd started describing my music, and you know what they did? They both bought records. They were like, do you have records with you? I was like, yeah. And I went to my car, and I got them. I sold it to them wholesale, but it was just because they bought it sight unseen. What am I going to charge them full fucking price? And they were super, super, super nice. And Troy Graham, my new friend, seemed to know everything about 2000s indie rock. So that was a friend of mine. Then I pull up to the crib. I meet the bands. I meet Jasno, who I had been communicating with on the internet. Shouts out Jack, shouts out Declan, shouts out Paul, and Paul's parents. And then I meet Party Store, shouts out Ty, shouts out Addison, shouts out Iria, shouts out Corey, who I'll get into their music in a little bit. But like everybody is talking about how it's inordinately hot for like this time of year, and start talking about some other things that make me think I have made, and this is going to sound bad, hear me out. I realize I've made a mistake in one respect. And that is I booked it because I'm also asking about food, and they're like, well, it's Sunday, everything's closing. And I realized that in my researching for for this tour, because I've never been to Marquette, never played with anyone from Marquette. I have no audience in Marquette. I've made a mistake. I made two mistakes. One, Marquette is a college town, and I played in the summer. I didn't know. I thought I know Marquette University. I didn't know that Marquette, the town, was also a college town for a different college. I'm just regionally unfamiliar. So I was like, oh, fuck. For the record, viewer, playing a college town in the summer is generally, it's not the perfect way to do it. Let's just say that. Although there's local people, like it's not like there's fucking nothing, but that's just like, that's my mistake as someone who's like visiting from out of town, you know, doing the thing. And a Sunday, it should have been a weekend day, like in the proper sense. Things shut down on Sunday. And this wasn't anything I could plan for. It was inordinately hot, so everybody was at the lake. This has a good ending, by the way, so don't worry about me. Don't be like, oh, Anthony had a bad show. I didn't have a bad show. I had a great show. But all of those things meant that by the time Party Store was playing, there was almost no one there except for bands, which I call that a band conference. And it's a shame because they ripped it up. I'm sure, I know they play locally a lot, so like I don't think that they're put out by this concept. But they were mentioning on the mic a lot, why isn't anybody here? Which that's how I felt, because their kind of main songwriting brain, Corey, was writing some really smart tunes that kind of ran the gamut, like went all over the place. There were occasionally some hip hop elements, some funky elements, but like also a lot of like really tight. They reminded me a little bit of a band called The Little Ones from the mid 2000s. Just like really interesting, like wonky little pop rock songs, and I really loved the tightness of the band. Rhythm section had it popping off too. Iria and Ty had a very cool dynamic going on. Really enjoyed their set. And then, you know, I am going up to play and people are vocally talking, and like a lot of people have early jobs and live far away, and they were like, we gotta go. And I was like, oh my God, there's gonna be like even less people during my set, which is like boo-hoo, who gives a shit. But like, I was gearing up. I was like, okay, Anthony, you're about to play at a band conference, which is fine, and I have done that kind of thing before. The good news is I began playing, and everyone was unbelievably like cool and polite. And by the third song, and this is, I just should have figured, like my optimism should have been more up and alive. By the third song, like it really starts kind of filling out, especially in the middle, with a lot of the people Jasno ended up bringing to the show too. And they come in and they stay in. That's what matters to me, that retention. And I start doing a little crowd work. Like I start feeling a little comfortable. And people are being responsive. And it just all goes to show, like, I don't know, it was going to be fine no matter what. And because I resigned myself to that fact, I'm not going to say because, but let's just say it helped to have that kind of Zen mindset. And then it really started to be great. And like Party Store also played their asses off. And to me, it's sort of like if everybody's giving it 100%, the good things will like the show will be good no matter what. Which to me means when it gets great, you get to have that wonderful surprise. And people were very, very responsive during the set. And a lot of people left with like vinyl, shirts, some tapes. The last box set still remains. I'll post about that later. But like the parents bought some. Like it was just, people donated. I felt very good and appreciated and nice. And then Jasno took the stage, and they're the main event, man. They played like they were fucking... I mean, I talked about this with the guys later, but like one thing I really respect about that band is they combine a lot of styles. Like I would say, if any of this resonates with you, definitely listen to them. I am reminded of like elements of like bands like Dance Gavin Dance, of Future Islands, and 21 Pilots, who I don't really listen to, but I have a lot of respect for in an interesting way. I think that they are game changers. And they played that show like there were 400 people there. There were more like 20, but they played like there were 400, and it worked. It matters. The spell works when you do it like that. And they just had such a overwhelmingly like professional attitude towards putting on a show. And it was very clearly like intentional and like imposing in a way where it like cannot be denied. And I was vibing, I was dancing, I was participating, I was doing everything. And then we break down, and there's still like life left in us. So the fellas of Jazz Know invited me to a place called the 909, a local bar, kind of a little far out. We got ourselves a couple pizzas, and we played ourselves some scratch-off tickets. I get a little scared of any form of gambling because I get worried it'll control my life. But guess what? I won $5, then I won $5 again, and then I stopped. How about that? Call me the king of restraint. Had a lot of fun talking to them about bands and stories we traded stories and enjoyed ourselves. Nice fellas. Let them play in Chicago. Make it happen. The way it ends is the way I really wanted this tour to end, which is my wonderful wife, Nicolette, booked a motel room for me in a place called Chatham, Michigan, really rural, called the Village Inn Motel. And you know what it was? It was in the middle of fucking nowhere, surrounded by trees, and clean and quiet, and I fell asleep instantly. And guess what? My phone died because I forgot to bring a charger, so I just used the clock. I had no phone. I just used the clock and its alarm to check out. You know what? That could heal me. That shit could change my life. I should be doing that all the time. And I had some of the best sleep I've gotten all tour, and I left incredibly satisfied, which I will. And last note, I want to come back. I want to come back to Marquette in the fall when the weather is more typical, when there are students there, and on a fucking Saturday. I want to come back because I had a really good time in the beautiful town of Marquette. And I had a wonderful time on this tour, which I will describe in a full recap, kind of overview, because I got a lot of thoughts that don't just have to do with the shows in a granular way. I have a lot of opinions on solo touring in 2025 that I like to put out there. If you're interested, I recommend tuning in for that kind of thing. But that is tomorrow. Thank you for watching. I'm going to keep driving.